a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm your host for the day, Alex Lima with BlackBelt Fitness and Martial Arts, filling in for your consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. You know what it is we do here. We try to educate you and push you on the right path to whatever it is you're looking for. We want to drop knowledge on you here in the Bay Area of hooking you up with our experts. If you need help with finance, you need help with real estate, self-defense, learning how to be smarter. We got a guest today that's going to help you with that. Our Second Amendment experts. We have lawyers on here. We got everything. We can connect you with anyone and anything and try to push you in the correct direction, because everybody we bring here is vetted. They have experience. You know how it goes. You can check out all of our experts on consumerqb.com. On the mic today, we have Matt DiMaio. He's the creator of Be Smarter Faster. I can't wait to talk to him, because as I was driving here today, I saw a lot of people that could benefit from being smarter faster with the roads here in the Bay Area sometimes. And then we have Frank Miranda of Frank Miranda Law. Okay, so once those guys come in, be ready. Turn your listening ears on. Be ready to rock. But before we do, we like to showcase some of the properties from the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams. Brandon and Lindsay run the premier real estate company here in the Bay Area, the Platinum MVP team, also known as the Livian Coastal Elite. The properties we would like to showcase for you today are, we have Pebble Creek Court. It is in Four Corners, Florida, so it's just outside of being Universal Studios, SeaWorld, downtown. Really interesting area. They call it Four Corners because it's kind of where four counties seem to kind of intersect with each other. It's 100-plus acres land listing, prime development opportunity, excellent location for short-term rental community. And like I said, it's really close to Disney World, Universal Studios, SeaWorld, downtown, and more. It's only 10 miles away. So that is a prime development opportunity right there. Another property we would like to showcase for you is, let's see, we just bring it back a little closer to town here. We got US Highway 301 South in Riverview. This is a commercial listing. It's a premium corner lot. It's a 2-building parcel. It's got right now in-house right there is a 1,281 square foot barber shop. I believe the barber shop is moving to a different location, so you can rent that business out. It's a nice for a little small personal training studio, maybe a little mortgage business, all kinds of things you can put in there. And then on the other side of the parcel, there is a 1,768 square foot auto repair business. Now, the auto repair shop is already leased, and they're in there for a 5-year term. So that's guaranteed income once you go and you purchase this property. Tremendous income potential. So it's got a 2-year-old roof and AC system in the barber shop. So all that has been replaced. This place is ready to go. And that's 7202 US Highway 301 South in Riverview, Florida. All right, let's bring it back. We got Matt DiMaio, creator of Be Smarter Faster. Matt, how you doing, man?
Alex, better now that I'm talking with you.
Nice, man. Good to see you. I saw you not too long ago at the our 4th of July get-together. It was nice to actually finally meet you in person and get to talk to you.
Wonderful, yes. Thank you very much for inviting me back on the show. I've been a frequent guest with Brandon and some of the other hosts, and this is the first time I'm on with you.
Oh, man, I'm loving it. Let's see how we do. Let's see if we can knock it out the park. All right, so
well,
go ahead.
School tells you what to learn. What I specialize in is teaching you how to learn it. And I've been doing this now since around 1980. So a long time. I'm 71, and I have students from all over the world that come to my YouTube channel to watch my videos and to, get my reports and to discover some of the things that you think that only the smart students know how to do. They're really not smarter than most people. They just have learned some tactics, techniques, and tricks that the other students haven't learned yet. And so my role is to teach some of those things. It's kind of like the magician pulling back the curtain and revealing how the trick is done. Suddenly the mystery goes away and you went, wow, you can produce these incredible results with a lot less work than I realized.
Yeah. So what's the baseline for that? Like when we're saying be smart, be smarter. So like for me, every time, I firmly believe in education. You need a base foundation in education. But I also find a lot of times that, like, especially the way the system is built, like you said, the school system, when you're taking a test or when you're going for your degree, a lot of it isn't really indicative of your intelligence level. it's indicative of your ability to recall information quickly, like for that exam or for that test. And that's why people cram. They remember what they need to remember for the test, and then they forget it. But it's important to be able to retain critical information, vital information.
You're right on a number of different counts there. And so when you were talking about like the baseline, we all have to play the game. If you're in school, if you're in college, and I know that many of the members of your audience here are parents of students that have to deal with this. And so I want to address some of the things that the parents can do to help their kids do better. And you're right. A lot of it is just, repetition and regurgitation of stuff that's in the class. But if you want to get that degree, if you want to get through, sometimes you just have to play the game regardless of whether you like it or not.
Definitely. So what typically, you said you've been doing this since the 80s. What brought you to doing this? Like, how did you just kind of see that there was a, the scales were tipping in two different sides when it came to like people that were retaining information and being quote unquote successful in academics versus like, the people that were just, struggling. They couldn't just, for whatever reason, couldn't pass a class, whatever it may be.
Well, I had a very practical reason for getting started with all this. Back in 1979 in New Jersey, which is where I'm originally from, I began working for a chain of computer programming schools. Now, at that time, there were no such thing as PCs in people's homes. That wouldn't happen until 2 years later, August of 81, IBM released their first PC. A few people had the little Tandys and Radio Shack and Colecos and stuff like that, but they were mostly the nerds. I had a very high dropout rate at my computer school. And so my income was affected when we had dropouts because I was paid based on collected tuitions. So I began to research what makes a person a good student, and I began to teach some of the things that I had researched to the students of my school. And a couple of things happened. Number one, I not only reduced the dropout rate, but I dramatically increased the job placement rate. So when these young people went on jobs and were interviewed by the data processing managers, they actually knew what they were talking about. And so they got hired. And then on the job, they performed better than students that they had hired from other schools. And that is when the magic happened. Because I began to get calls from the companies that hired our graduates wondering what we were doing at our school that made our graduates superior to those from competing schools. And I began to get invited to do industry speaking engagements. So I began doing seminars for the Data Processing Managers Association, for the Association of Systems Managers, and so on. And that led me to eventually leaving the schools and teaching some of these learning techniques full time. And I've applied it to a lot of different things. For many years, I've used these techniques to help companies build large, successful sales forces, because selling is essentially the transfer of information, of teaching and learning and teaching and learning and teaching and learning.
Definitely.
When the client understands it as well, understands the benefits and the features well enough that the salesperson explained it properly, and they feel the same way that the salesperson does about it, that's when they cut loose a check. And so I've used these techniques for a long time to help build large sales organizations as well. But in my late 60s, when I decided to leave the corporate world behind and kind of go back into private practice, I discovered YouTube. And now I've been producing, a lot of videos on YouTube. My channel is called Be Smarter Faster. And my biggest video is called How to Absorb Textbooks Like a Sponge. And I talk about the mechanics for how you deal with a textbook differently than the way you would deal with reading a novel. And you mentioned earlier about taking exams. I teach very specific strategies on test-taking tactics, how to get a higher score, even if you don't know the material any better than the other students in the class. So there are ways to psych these things out to be able to not only get the information in your head better, but also to play the game better and get a higher score.
Yeah, it's strategies and tactics. Like when you go to take a test, it's especially multiple choice type exam. We already know off bat, two of the questions are completely wrong. You just throw those away, right? And then there's the one doozy that they throw in there to try to psych you out that makes you kind of trip up a little bit. So then I guess your strategies and tactics, you would show the way of how to like determine out of that what is the more correct answer.
You are so on the right track. I suppose that you could kind of liken what I do to a kind of a mental martial arts where, it is you're going to learn techniques and then you learn and practice a few techniques and it gives you a level of self-confidence and power that you would not have without those techniques, even though you're not any stronger, you're not any braver, you don't have any new ability. What you have now is new strategies that provide you with a tremendous amount of mental leverage.
Which give you the advantage. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I came prepared to talk about the fact that so many of your listeners have students that have just been here in Hillsborough County. We only started school just a couple of weeks ago. And one of the biggest impediments to being able to learn things well is stress. That is the biggest killer of attitude, of ability to learn, of willingness to learn. It causes parents a lot of problems. And so as we go on here, I have 5 surefire techniques to help parents working with their kids to manage school stress.
Okay. Well, I'm excited. You got me, man. I'm leaning into the mic, my headphones here, trying to hear deeper and deeper what it is. You got me sold. So we're going to get into the 5 tips. Let's do it.
Okay, very good. So number 1 is you must mentally stay in the present moment. You see, one of the biggest problems that people have is that they let their worst imagination run wild about what might happen, what could happen. Instead, work with your kids. Help them take it one day at a time. Focus on what's happening right now and get them to stop imagining all sorts of bad stuff that hasn't actually happened. Look, you've probably heard it more times than you can count that 90% of the stuff you worry about never happens, and the 10% that does is usually not as bad as what you imagined it would be.
This is true. I've read quite a few books myself. I wish I would have read them faster. So I'm going to get with you how to read them faster and be smarter. But especially on like samurai warfare and stuff like that, there's this great samurai like ancient Japanese proverb that it's the internal enemy is your greatest enemy. So what you create in your head is always worse than what is being depicted right in front of you, like the actual challenge that is in front of you.
What a perfect example. You're absolutely right. Number 2 is write out your worries. You see, when you write down your concerns and you see them on paper, it gives you the ability to take control over them. You take the emotion out of it. You deflate the problem. There's actually a technical name for it. It's called writing therapy. And so a person can make it a regular practice. You want your kids to write as though their life depends on it, because it often does. When you write stuff out, not only about the things that are bothering you and maybe what you're afraid of, but have your kids write out their dreams, their goals, their aspirations. And then what that does is it gives you a lot more personal control over your thoughts and your emotions.
And so the studies with that, that's because, first off, it's in our head. We're creating this in our head. And then just when you see it on paper, you've actually written it with your own hand. Now you can see it, like you can actually see the challenge in front of you for the most part. Like what's the I'm trying to understand the science. I get it.
You'll be amazed. What happens is you have to go through a process where you are shining a light on these demons in the corner that are hiding in the shadows. And what happens is when you write stuff down, no longer are you dealing with these vague patterns or vague impressions or these undefined fears, but you've got to define them. And it is very much like shining a flashlight under the bed when the kids are going to sleep, to look for the monsters. What you do is you eliminate them, because when you can grab a hold of them and you can see it on paper in front of you. Sometimes you look at it and you go, "That's what I'm afraid of." What? That's it's not as bad as I thought.
Definitely, and it sounds like it's very similar to the manifestation of goals. You can't just say I want to be a millionaire or I want to be a champion. You have to be very specific in the path that you're trying to you tread upon, your journey that you want to take. This is what I want to be a champion in. This is the amount. You have to specify. You have to pinpoint it, just like you're saying. I like that. I like that. I see how you can correlate that with using these same like, well, quote unquote, like battle tactics when it comes to like education and stuff as well. I love it.
Yep. And like you pointed out, you don't want to just write down the things that are bothering you and what you're afraid of. You want to write down your goals, your dreams, and your aspirations. Number 3, this is going to be a big one, especially for those kids that are in middle school, high school, and also just starting college. And that is realize how very few people are actually thinking about you. See, one of the biggest fears that people have is worrying about what other people think of them. They're all inside their own head. And the truth is, most other people are so worried about what everybody thinks of them, which means they're not even thinking about you.
Amen to that.
They're just as self-conscious as you are. Even the people that you think are the cool kids. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they're just putting on an act. So nobody realizes how insecure they really are.
Definitely. I mean, we're all human. We all face that whole spectrum of emotions. We have fear. We have doubt. We have goals and aspirations. We all feel. No matter how cool and composed somebody may seem on the exterior, trust me, they're feeling it too. They just have a method of either masking what they're feeling or they've learned how to harness that and maintain their composure. Let's take a quick break. We're going to let our listeners soak that in a little bit, and then when we come back, we'll hit those final last 2 tips. And we're back. Thank you for sticking around with us here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm your host for the day, Alex Lima with BlackBelt Fitness and Martial Arts. Be sure to call our hotline if you'd like to get in touch with any of our expert contributors or hear about some of our real estate properties that we have as well. That hotline would be 727-263-3707. That's an off-air number. You can contact us. You can call or text that number, and we will get back to you. One more time, that number is 727-263-3707. So we're back here in studio. We heard some amazing tips from Matt DiMaio with Be Smarter, Faster. He gave us some excellent ways for students and parents to be able to deal with stress and be able to handle all education, really, not just the school year that's in front of us right now. So we're going to get back to him, and we're going to hear those last 2 tips that he had. He gave us a top 5. We're down to the last 2. But before we do, I'd like to highlight some of the properties from the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams, Lindsay and Brandon's expert team of realtors and real estate properties. The property we'd like to highlight for you is 701 Sugar Palm Street. That is 701 Sugar Palm Street in Largo, Florida. It's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,000 square foot, 55 and up community type home. It's got you're living on a 9-hole golf course, 3 tennis courts, 2 hot tubs, and 3 pools. So there's always something to do here in this neighborhood. Got a built-in china cabinet that spans from wall to wall, from the window to the wall, right? Recently remodeled kitchen, water purifier beneath the kitchen sink. Primary has a built-in dresser and in-suite. The front porch is adorned with porcelain tile. I mean, this property is really, really nice. For a 55 and up community, it looks really nice. 701 Sugar Palm Street in Largo, Florida. Check that one out. You can see all our properties at platinumcoastalelite.com. Now we're back in studio with my man, Matt from Be Smarter, Faster, the creator, the man at the genesis of Be Smarter, Faster, has been doing this since the 80s. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. And to review what we talked about in the first segment, parents have a big job in dealing with students who are now back in school and dealing with this stress, which can become crippling, and the anxiety, which is worse now than it ever was when you and I were young. And so what we talked about was get your kids to be in the present moment now. Deal with what's happening today, not what might happen tomorrow, not be logged into the past, which is already gone and you can't account for it. Number 2 is write stuff down. Use writing therapy so that you can expose what it is you're really concerned about, and you can also focus on what your goals are. And number 3 is to realize that nobody is really thinking about you. Everybody is self-conscious, and so just go and be yourself and let everybody else be their own self-conscious self, and stop realizing that, or stop worrying that people are judging you. So number 4 is get organized. When things are disorganized, it makes ordinary situations a lot more stressful. You wind up having more pressure than just whatever the assignment that you've got at hand is right now, because you're feeling out of control. So if you have to, make a calendar to help you control your time. Clean up your workspace so that you're not attempting to do your assignments, when you're in a big mess. Put all of your tools and resources together so you don't have to spend a bunch of time hunting around for the stuff that you need.
Definitely set yourself up for success. I like that. We got about a minute left. So what's the final one? And then also, how can people get a hold of you?
You bet. Number 5, real easy. Realize that every new challenge looks hard at first. When you think back about other challenges that you've had in life, riding a bike, learning how to drive a car, they all looked impossible at the beginning. Then somebody showed you how to do it, and now you can do that stuff on automatic pilot. Every new subject that you work with is going to be the same. And I know that I hit your audience members with an awful lot of content pretty quick, and so I offer a bunch of free resources to help parents and students out. So if they go to besmarter.com, besmarterfaster.com, I have a bunch of low-cost, no-cost reports and ebooks that are available for a quick, easy download.
That's awesome. besmarterfaster.com. Matt, thank you so much for your time. It was very enlightening speaking with you. I'm definitely going to hit up your website myself. I want to dig a little deeper into this. I want to apply some of your strategies and tactics to my teachings and to my art form that I do. So it was a pleasure speaking to you, buddy.
Thanks so much, Alex.
All right, guys. That's it. Coming up next, we got Frank Miranda Law.